Hey guys, it's James from the Resistance Broadcast, and I'm going to take some time today to talk a little bit about Bad Batch Season 2 and give you my 5 hopes for Season 2. Things I want to see, things I hope happen, and that's basically it. So let's just get started right away. Now, knowing my list might not line up with everybody else's, I'm going to go right off the top and say I hope that Crosshair gets redeemed. This is a character to me that I think is very clearly personally going through something, and as they made that evident in the first season when he says he removed his chip and he's making these decisions on his own. I think that was something that the creators did to kind of throw you off and say, oh, he really is bad, and this means that there's no more questioning it anymore. He's a villain. He's a bad guy. That's really one of his choices. But I think that this only opened Crosshair to choosing for himself. And that was the side he was currently on. He was playing that game. He says, no, I want to be this, because he's sort of a Raphael style character. He's the outcast of the group. He is kind of choosing to be the outcast of the group. But I think in his heart of hearts, he knows that what the Bad Batch is doing is the right thing to do. And what they're telling him about how the Empire is going to throw him away is ultimately true. And I think, if you kind of look at the episode titles, in my best guess, I assume that means that he's going to have a moment of clarity and ultimately do the right thing. So I'm hoping Crosshair gets redeemed in Season 2. The next thing I want to happen in Season 2 is something that was a prediction from Season 1, and that is the return of Wolf and Gregor. And when I say return, I mean it in our timeline, because we've seen them in Clone Wars, and then we saw them in Rebels, but we have not seen how they've gotten from Clone Wars to Rebels. We assume they were part of Order 66. We assume they complied with the chip, but we have not seen that yet, and it seemed evident that the Bad Batch might go there, considering they brought in Rex for Season 1, but we haven't seen it yet. And I think that Season 2 would be a good opportunity to show us what we think might happen with more and more clones revolting against the chip, revolting against the Order, and how that impacts some of Rex's closest friends and allies. That would ultimately be something I think fans would really like to see, including myself. And it would give us that Star Wars Rebels connection that I think would boost the series a little bit and say, oh, I haven't been watching Bad Batch, but I really liked Rebels. Oh, there was sort of a Rebels connection. All right, let's go watch it. I'll at least watch that one episode, turn it on. Oh, what am I missing? Kind of give us that thing. So in Season 2, I'm hoping that we see what happened to Wolf and Gregor. There you go. All right, number 3. All right, this is a little bit of a, I don't want to say prediction, but this was like something that I thought was going to happen, or potentially was going to happen in live action. Bad Batch Season 1 gave us a bombshell of information, which is that Boba Fett and Omega are essentially siblings. It seems that they are the only two that are, so closely genetically linked with Jango Fett that they were sort of giving Jango Fett children. They gave him Boba, but they also made Omega. And this information all came out before the Book of Boba Fett series dropped, and there was a possibility, maybe that's the point of this series, is that Boba Fett is going to find family, which is a common theme in Star Wars. Maybe there's something worth fighting for now. It didn't end up happening. And, that sort of makes sense, because they don't expect the live action crowd to necessarily have been seeing the animation. They're going to be like, what? Now all of a sudden they're giving Boba Fett a sister. That's fine that Star Wars does it, but I kind of understand they pulled it out of the live action version of Boba Fett. Okay, but this is season 2 of The Bad Batch now, so let's explore what you gave us in season 1. I think this hopefully means that we're going to see Boba Fett at this point in his life showing up in the show and giving us that connection between Boba Fett and Omega and how he reacts to that information, how I think she knows maybe that there's another one, but it's another one like that would be connected the way or created the way she was created, but I don't think they've met. I don't know. I just want to see it. So give us Boba Fett in that in-between period between the Clone Wars and where we've seen him later, including, the original trilogy. I would like to see it, and hopefully we get a little bit more clarity on that relationship between those two characters. All right, on to number 4, Vice Admiral Rampart. We have a great villain that left us in a very awful place. He is striving to make his way in the Empire, move up the ranks, and he's willing to do anything, including completely destroying the homes of all of these clones. It's, I don't know that I can say it's totally his idea, but he's following the order without hesitation. You can see it on the hesitation of all the other clones, even the ones that are compromised by the chips, to say, this is not good. And he has no problem with it. He completely destroys the city and the people that are still on it. He wants to get rid of the Bad Batch. It's no problem. I think that this has been a good villain for this show, and I hope that the show doesn't just kill him off. They let him sort of flourish within this show. Maybe he shows up other places. I don't think he's going to be a character that, when he does show up, everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, it's Rampart, right? But I think that he has potential to continue to be a very formidable foe for the Bad Batch, and I hope that it's not just as easy as being like, I really hope I get those Bad Batchers, and then the Bad Batchers totally get him. I think that's kind of silly, and the show so far in season 1 has shown us that it doesn't have to be that. He can just be a villainous, empire-driven character without also being like a faceless, all that I said, driven empire-like character, right? So I hope we see that character flourish. I hope we see more of him. I hope he continues to do dark deeds, if you will, and that he becomes someone that when we look back on the Bad Batch, we're like, hey, they actually had a really good villain too. It wasn't just about growing those characters. We actually got something that they fought to defeat, and what led them down the path of maybe joining the rebellion or wherever the Bad Batch ends up. But because they saw the evil that was this person, and not just the Empire as a whole, but what an individual in the Empire could do, then it led them to make more decisions on, we have to stop this, or we have to do what we can to make sure that people like Rampart don't exist or don't have the ability to have the power that they can seemingly get from the Empire. So I want to see more of this character. I hope we get him. Last up on my list is another character that we thought we may have seen in season 1, but we didn't get. But I don't think I think it would be cheating to have tossed him in with Wolf and Gregor, because seeing Cody and Rex meet is a lot different. It's something different entirely than Wolf and Gregor. Now, they can play into the same aspects of it, but I think it would be interesting if it maybe started with Wolf and Gregor and he was able to convert them, but then it all comes down to a big showdown between him and Cody, and ultimately Cody doesn't make the right choice, or he was unable to be deterred, or something along those lines. I think seeing some type of showdown between Rex and Cody, and the direction that Cody ends up going, could potentially even give that out to Crosshair, like I was saying before. Like, if Cody becomes someone that says, I'm not changing, you can't change me, then that gives Crosshair the out to say, well, they've changed me. I mean, obviously this is not dialogue that I'm hoping for, but you know what I'm saying is that sort of gives an out to other characters if you have one clone that does in fact say, I'm staying here, this is what I'm doing, and it sort of ends up becoming that tragedy. Now, I don't necessarily... It's not like I'm rooting for Cody to go bad, but I do like the idea of some of the clones that we have grown to love did make that switch and ultimately stayed with the Empire. And the more and more we go down the path of, well, they didn't get Wolf, they didn't get Echo, they didn't get Gregor, they didn't get Rex, they're getting Crosshair, but, he's, like I said before, he's shown this and that. I do want to see a clone, at least one clone, a known clone, right? Go that path, possibly end in tragedy. Give the story purpose to show that it wasn't just so easy for them to be like, oh, snap out of it and then be okay with everything that had happened. I think showcasing that the Empire did their due diligence and maybe had a small percentage of errors with the clone, but for the most part, the clone army was changed to fight for the Empire. Let Cody be a representation of that, and don't let all of the clones just suddenly snap out of it and revolt, and maybe that make more sense of why they switched over to Stormtroopers, because it was only a temporary thing. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of Rex and Cody going at it, and maybe even Rex being the person that has to take Cody out. I think regardless of what storyline you go down, I think that getting Cody into the show would boost your audience and your excitement and your angle of saying this show was worth something. That's not to take away from any of the Bad Batch characters or even Omega as sort of your main key character. But what I do think is that you have that perfect opportunity right now to explore the clones, because the Clone War is done and we still have answers, or still have questions that we want answered. So use this opportunity to explore what it means to be a clone and take us on a journey in season 2. But that is it for my hopes. That's 5 hopes for season 2 from my point of view. If I missed something or you completely disagree, please put it in the comments. Let's have a talk. As of now, I have not seen any of season 2. So once season 2 starts, I'll start doing my episode reactions to each one. So subscribe to the channel now to make sure you're not missing out on that. And just know that they're going to drop when new episodes drop of The Bad Batch. So get excited. And the Bad Batch reaction show is coming soon. But let me know what your thoughts on, or your hopes for season 2 are. And let's get a conversation started today. Until then, I'll see you around.